The courtroom was packed so tightly it felt less like an audience and more like a crowd before a storm. Shoulders touched, breaths overlapped, and even the old air conditioning seemed too small for the weight of the day. People stood along the walls, holding their phones low, waiting for the moment when the red camera lights flicked on. The smell of polished oak mixed with dust and body heat. When the bailiff called the room to rise, benches creaked in unison, a tide of bodies straightening in respect. Except one. He stayed seated. A boy, not yet 18, skinny in the way of someone still outgrowing himself. A baseball cap pulled low, sneakers resting casually on the rung in front of him, one leg crossed over the other like he was lounging in a cafeteria. He tilted his head back and laughed, too loud, too deliberate. Seriously? This is what you call a court? His voice cracked through the hush, sharp, cocky. You're in a robe, but we all know it's a TV circus. I don't even need a lawyer to beat you. The silence that followed was heavier than noise. A woman near the back gasped audibly. Two men exchanged quick looks, one whispering, "He doesn't know what he's doing." A nervous laugh sputtered from someone in the second row and died instantly. Judge Judy had already taken her place, her robe falling perfectly, her lace collar sharp and bright against the dark fabric. She didn't blink, didn't shift. Her eyes cut straight to him, steady as a blade. When she spoke, her voice was level, almost soft, but it carried the weight of iron. Young man, this is not a circus. This is your catastrophe. But please, she let the pause stretch until every breath stalled, show us your act. The audience reacted as one, head snapping, whispers rippling, the air tightening with the sense that something irreversible had just begun. The boy smirked, leaning back farther, his sneaker tapping against the bench in rhythm, a drummer in his own performance. The bailiff shifted, ready to speak, but Judy lifted a hand. The gesture was enough, the man stopped mid-breath. Even the gallery stilled, the hum of the air conditioning returning faintly, like the world exhaling again. Name, Judy said. The word wasn't a request. The boy leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and gave it like a dare. The stenographer's fingers flicked across the keys, recording every syllable, face neutral but eyes betraying a flicker of disbelief. And why are you here? Judy asked. He grinned wider, proud to have the floor. Because some bitter adults can't stand a teenager making money. They're suing me for a couple thousand over electronics I resold. Jealousy, plain and simple. I made more at 17 than they ever will. That landed like a thrown stone. A handful of people in the gallery gasped or chuckled in disbelief. One man shook his head and muttered, "Oh, he's cooked." Phones lifted again, little red lights glowing like fireflies. The boy grabbed a manila folder, shook it once for effect, then tossed it onto the table. It hit hard enough that the microphones caught the thud, papers scattering slightly inside. There, he said. My proof. Read it and let's be done. Judy reached for the folder without looking at him, as if he weren't even part of the equation. The room grew impossibly quiet. A zipper froze mid-pull, a cough smothered itself in someone's sleeve. She flipped through the pages slowly, her pen clicking once, sharp in the silence. Outside, clouds rolled across the windows, dulling the light until the room felt closer, heavier. The boy reclined farther, smirk intact, glancing sideways at the cameras, as if daring them to frame his confidence. These papers were printed last week, Judy said finally, her tone conversational but merciless. The transaction you claim happened 6 months ago. The room erupted, not loudly, but enough. A hissed, "No way," a low whistle, a ripple of whispered disbelief. The bailiff's glare quieted the noise, but the tension remained, humming like a live wire. The boy didn't flinch. So what? I made a copy for you. You're welcome. Not a crime, Grandma. The word hit wrong. People in the gallery winced, shifting uneasily. Judy's lips curved, just the faintest seam at one corner. It wasn't amusement. It was recognition, he'd already given her the thread to pull. He didn't notice. He adjusted his cap, sat forward, and spread the papers out like cards at a poker table. His sneaker squeaked against the varnished floor, a sound that betrayed nerves he didn't yet acknowledge. "Let's begin," Judy said, calm as a surgeon before the first cut. The boy swallowed hard, throat tight, but he covered it with another grin. He launched into his story, fast, confident, explaining margins and resale, blaming jealous competitors, declaring his genius. His words raced, but Judy's eyes weren't on him. She traced a corner of the page with one fingertip, noting the inconsistency he hadn't realized he'd handed her. The gallery leaned in unconsciously, bodies tilting toward the collision they knew was coming. Even the storm outside seemed to pause, rain suspended on the edge of falling. He looked down again, then up, then back down, his rhythm faltering for the first time. And in that split-second hesitation, everyone in the room felt it, the first crack in his performance. "Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe to this channel." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, still wearing the smirk he thought kept him in control. His voice rose too easily, too loud for the stillness. "Let's get this straight," he said, tapping the folder with the tips of his fingers like it was a drum. "They're suing me because they can't handle a kid who out-hustled them. I resold some electronics, made a few thousand, and now they're crying foul. They're jealous, plain and simple. I'm 17 and already smarter than half this room." The words were meant for the cameras, not for Judy. A few chuckles burst from the benches, but they were edged with disbelief, not support. One man muttered, "He's still talking," and the whisper carried further than it should have. Judy didn't answer. She opened the folder with quiet precision, sliding one page free, then another. The rustle of paper was the only sound until the stenographer's keys resumed their steady patter, documenting everything. The boy pushed on. "Look at the highlights, I made it easy for you. Invoices, tracking numbers, texts. Proof they got what they paid for. They used it, then wanted a refund. That's not how business works." He shoved a stapled packet toward the bench with a flourish, as if he'd just presented winning cards. Judy lifted the top page. The paper still smelled of toner. She turned it slowly, holding it up just long enough for the overhead camera to catch a faint watermark. No expression crossed her face. "These were printed a week ago," she said, tone flat as a ruler. "The transaction was 6 months ago." The gallery reacted in waves, a sharp gasp, a low whistle, muttered disbelief. Phones lifted until the bailiff's glare forced them down again. The boy didn't falter. "So what? I made clean copies. You should be thanking me." He gave a sharp laugh. "Not a crime, Grandma." The insult thudded against the silence. A few heads turned sharply toward him, nobody laughed. Judy's lips twitched, a micro-expression that wasn't amusement. It was recognition, he'd already slipped. She placed 2 pages side by side, aligning the corners carefully. The fluorescent lights hummed louder in the pause. "Show me," she said evenly. "Which document proves you owed nothing after the sale?" He jabbed a finger at one sheet. "That one. Signed. Dated. By whom?" "By me and them," he said quickly, leaning over the scrawled initials at the bottom. "And the date?" "It's right there," he snapped. "You can read it." "I can," she replied. "The question is, can you?" He bent closer, lips moving as he read the numbers. A tiny hesitation betrayed him, eyes stumbling between a 9 and a 6. He recovered with forced confidence. "Clear as day." Judy said nothing. She shifted to another page, a delivery receipt. The signature was a neat loop, suspiciously identical to the scrawl on the contract. She didn't comment yet. "Did you receive the refund request within the return window you listed here?" she asked. "They tried to," he said, dismissive. "But they were scamming me." "Doesn't matter." "It matters," Judy said, her tone final. The gallery rustled at the bluntness. The boy blew out air, trying for nonchalance. Look, adults hate losing to a kid. That's all this is. Adults don't frighten me, Judy replied. Neither does noise. She slid the receipt under the camera, then the contract. To the gallery, the mismatched typeface in the date field became obvious. The boy didn't notice. He was busy scanning faces in the crowd, hoping for signs of approval. He found none. Who added this margin note? Judy asked suddenly, pen resting on a line. Me, he said, shrugging. To keep it clean. Clean, she repeated, letting the word sit heavy. The stenographer's keys clicked faster. The boy's knee began to bounce under the table. You claimed you reinvested the money, Judy said. In what? More stock. My business. I don't need anyone's approval. Your business. Your documents, Judy echoed quietly. So you'll have no trouble producing the originals. His smirk cracked. They're digital. Then we'll look at them, Judy said. Now. Unlock your phone. The gallery leaned in as he pulled a scratch device from his pocket. His hands weren't steady now. He typed his code, the screen lit up, full of unread notifications. He tried to swipe them away too quickly and missed. A preview banner lingered, words visible to the front row. Judy's gaze didn't waver. Open the folder, she said. He hesitated. It's in my messages. Then we'll read your messages, she answered, voice calm, inexorable. The boy froze, thumb hovering above a thread marked with a smirking emoji. His chest rose too fast. Finally, he tapped. The gallery saw bubbles of text appear, the beginning of a sentence half visible at the top. I faked the numbers. Judy extended her hand. He placed the phone in her palm, his fingers reluctant to let go. We'll read them aloud, she said. The boy's smirk vanished. His knees shook under the table, rattling against what the microphones couldn't hide. The phone's glow painted his face an unhealthy blue. Judy didn't look at him, her eyes stayed on the cracked glass, thumb steady as she scrolled. The gallery leaned forward as one body. No coughs, no whispers. Only the faint tick of the stenographer's keys, brittle as hail. Beneath the document camera, the screen lit up with a half line of text. I faked the numbers. The gallery saw it before Judy spoke. The collective intake of breath was sharp enough to bend the air. He tried a shrug. People joke. Texts are sarcasm. You can't take that seriously. Judy's voice was calm, almost polite. Then let's see the rest. She scrolled down. A gray bubble expanded, swapped the totals. If they ask, say it was a screenshot glitch. Below, a reply, bro, that's reckless. Keep your head. The sender's name glowed at the top, Dax. A low rustle moved through the benches. Even those who had come for spectacle understood what they were reading. Who is Dax? Judy asked. A friend, the boy muttered. Not part of this. He's part enough to warn you, Judy said. The boy reached out for the phone, but her palm lifted. He froze. His sneakers rattled against the bench until he locked his legs still. Judy pinched open a photo. The monitor filled with an invoice. The total line was jagged, the number pasted, edges pixelated. She didn't explain. She let the gallery see for themselves. Why is this number different from the rest of the text? She asked. Compression, he blurted. Phones do that. Not selectively, she replied. His throat bobbed. He tried a grin that didn't reach his eyes. You're really into fonts, huh? Someone in the front row laughed once, nervously, then silenced themselves. Judy slid the phone aside and set the printed contract under the camera. You said these were copies. They aren't. You said digital made originals irrelevant. It doesn't. You said jealousy explains everything. It doesn't erase fraud. The boy leaned forward, hands spread. They came at me first. I'm not the bad guy. You forged what you couldn't defend, Judy said evenly. The word landed with a metallic weight. The side door latch clicked. Heads turned. A young man in a hoodie stepped in, phone in hand. He spoke without hesitation. Leo Vargas. We used to buy and sell together. The boy jerked upright. No. Judy didn't look at him. Do you have business here? Leo nodded. Yes. He texted me about the numbers. Said he reworked the totals and told me if anyone asked, I should say the screenshot came that way. I kept the messages. The gallery buzzed, then fell still again under the bailiff's glance. The boy shook his head violently. Liar. He begged me. Enough, Judy cut in, quiet but final. She beckoned Leo forward. He handed over his phone, screen glowing with a thread of messages. Do you consent to making these public? Yes, Leo said. I just want the truth out. Judy placed his phone beside the boy's. 2 rectangles of light glowed on the bench. She tilted them to the overhead camera. Side by side, the threads matched, timestamps minutes apart, words nearly identical. One read, I tweaked the totals. Don't be soft. The other reworked the numbers, call it a glitch. The gallery didn't gasp this time. They sat in a kind of silence that feels colder than noise. Outside, thunder rolled faintly, as if keeping score. Judy raised her hand, not to quiet but to mark the moment. Her voice dipped low, close to a whisper, I haven't ruled. I'm only reading. She set her finger just under the first incriminating line and turned her gaze to the boy. We'll read these aloud, she said. The audience's breath synchronized, a single intake. The boy's chest hitched. Leo stared at the floor, steadying himself. The bailiff adjusted his stance, as if counting beats. Judy nodded toward the stenographer. On the record, she said. The words glowed on the glass, black against white, waiting at the edge of becoming sound. The phone sat under the document camera like an exposed nerve. Judy rested one palm near it, not touching, as if the evidence carried its own heat. The gallery leaned forward, bodies straining without moving, waiting for the line to be spoken aloud. Her voice cut through the silence, calm and sharp. Quoting, I'll make a fake contract, the old lady won't notice. The room erupted. Laughter burst out in jagged waves, some gasps tangled with it. A few clapped before realizing where they were. Someone near the back shouted, Oh my God. The bailiff's arm shot up, palm stiff, and the noise shrank back down, leaving a raw echo of what had just been heard. The boy shoved himself upright. His cap brim trembled with the motion. It was a joke, he shouted, too fast. Just a joke for my friends. That's all. Judy looked at him for a long beat, her expression unreadable. Then, softly, you joke where other people lose their money? Interesting. Her hand moved to the folder. She drew out a crisp page, placed it under the camera. The monitor lit with a bank header, columns of numbers in clean black type. She tapped one line with her pen. Funds received, 10:12 a.m. Her finger slid lower. Funds withdrawn, 3:47 p.m. The same day. Not weeks later. Not next month. Immediately. The benches rippled with sound, half gasp, half groan. A man muttered, same day, and the words carried further than he knew. Even those who had laughed earlier now leaned back, realizing how thin the boy's defense looked against numbers. He tried to sound firm. That's normal business. Operational cash flow. You move money around. Everybody does it. Everybody documents it, Judy replied. She lined the bank sheet beside his so-called contract. Under the overhead lens, the mismatch shouted for itself, dates and descriptions that didn't align. He jabbed a finger at the contract. That's the deal. That's what matters. From somewhere behind him, a voice whispered, "The deal he just called fake." The gallery stifled nervous laughter until Judy's raised hand silenced them completely. "You wrote about a fake contract," she said evenly. "You wrote about backfilled numbers. The bank shows funds disappearing in hours. These are not jokes. These are events." He shook his head hard enough to knock his cap off center. "You don't get it. That's how we talk. Online, it's banter." "I understand loss," Judy said. "And motive. And records." She tapped the memo field, "Deposit per agreement. Your own language. Convenient, considering you had no valid agreement that day." His jaw worked, trying to keep its shape. "People clean up paperwork later. Everyone does. Normal is when records agree with each other," she said. "Yours argue." The boy's leg began to shake under the table, sneakers rapping the wood like a quiet metronome of panic. He pushed forward again. "I reinvested. That's all. I'm building. People hate that I'm young and ahead of them." "People see arithmetic," Judy replied. "Not age. Arithmetic." She slid another sheet forward. A log of account activity appeared under the lens, rows of edits marked with his login ID. "Here. The week after the refund request. Amounts changed. Descriptions altered. Every edit traced to you." His hands flew up. "Of course my ID's there. I manage my own books." "That proves nothing." "It proves you touched the story," she said simply. The gallery murmured approval, soft, weighted. A woman in the front row exhaled as if she'd been holding her breath for minutes. Even the teenagers had lowered their phones now, watching with their eyes instead of their screens. Judy stacked the exhibits, neat, precise taps. "Humor thrives in private," she said. "In transactions, it rots. What we have here is not a punchline. It is a sequence, money in, money out, numbers rewritten, jokes predicting nobody would notice." The boy winced at old lady when she repeated his words, as if hearing them in her voice made them heavier. He reached toward the evidence but stopped halfway, hand hovering helpless above the paper. "You claim this is entertainment," Judy said, her tone cool. "But you've supplied the script." A nervous chuckle flickered through the benches, then vanished. Judy turned slightly toward the clerk. "Mark the messages and bank statement as exhibits. Prepare the next witness." The boy's head whipped toward her. "Next witness? Who?" No one answered. A click sounded at the side door. The audience pivoted as one. Behind the glass panel, a shadow lingered, older, deliberate, the outline of a blazer and a satchel strap across one shoulder. Rain darkened the fabric at the edges. The hinges gave, and the door opened inward. The gallery leaned forward unconsciously, pulled by the gravity of what was about to step through. The door opened, and a man walked in with the quiet assurance of someone used to commanding a room without raising his voice. He was in his late 40s, rain darkening the shoulders of his blazer, wire-rimmed glasses slipping down his nose. A satchel hung from one arm, its corners worn, heavy with papers. "Identify yourself," the bailiff ordered. "Professor Alan Merritt. Business and Information Systems, Essex Community College." His tone was calm, almost academic. The gallery reacted at once, whispers, a low hum of recognition. Someone muttered, "That's real," as if surprised this wasn't part of the show. Judy gestured to the stand. "Mr. Merritt, please." He raised his hand for the oath, then settled with the posture of a lecturer. From his satchel he pulled a notebook and an envelope. The items looked ordinary, but they carried weight. Judy kept her voice measured. "Tell us what you know of the defendant." Merritt looked at the boy, not with hostility, but with the detached precision of a teacher describing a student's exam paper. "He's in my e-commerce class. Bright, restless. More interested in bending rules than learning them." He tapped the notebook. "Two moments stand out. Go on." First, during class. We discussed payment systems and chargebacks. He said, and I quote, "Judges don't understand crypto. If you route it through the right chain, they'll never catch it. Too old school." He laughed. The class laughed. I noted it. The gallery buzzed, disbelief mixed with dark amusement. Second, Merritt continued, sliding the envelope forward. In office hours, he told me he was testing something. He said, "I'll make a contract template that looks real for TV. She won't get it, she's too old to know crypto bridging." He asked if I'd give him extra credit for innovation. I declined. The boy lurched up in his chair. "He's twisting it." That was hypothetical. I was joking. Merritt remained steady. "You wrote part of a wallet address on my desk pad. You asked if I knew how to make screenshots look native. Those weren't hypotheticals." The room rippled with a restrained gasp. Phones hovered midair. Judy opened the envelope, placing its contents under the camera, a class sign-in sheet, photocopied notes with the wallet digit scribbled in the margin, and an email confirming the appointment. Mundane papers, suddenly sharp as blades. "Anything else?" Judy asked. Merritt nodded. "Yes. In front of classmates," he said, "the judge won't understand the scheme. She's too old to know crypto payments." He was counting on ignorance. The gallery reacted instantly, laughter, groans, a shocked, "Oh no." The bailiff raised his hand, silence returned. Judy's gaze moved to the defendant. "Would you like to respond?" He slammed his palms on the table. "This is a setup. You all hate me because I'm young and smarter than you. He's jealous. Leo's jealous. Everyone's jealous. That's the truth." It fell flat. Faces in the gallery hardened. Even the teenagers who had laughed earlier now looked away, embarrassed for him. Judy's tone was cool, almost detached. "No. They don't hate you. They read you. Like an open comic book." The words landed harder than a shout. Silence spread, thick and absolute. The boy blinked, his mouth working soundlessly. Judy returned to Merritt. "Did he mention amounts?" "Yes. He said he received money in the morning and moved it by afternoon." He laughed. "He said, by the time they check, the chain will show something else." He was wrong. A murmur swept through the room. Judy nodded once. "Thank you, Professor. You may step down." Merritt packed his satchel, adjusted his glasses, and left without looking back. The door closed softly, leaving chalk dust and rain in the air. The boy sat rigid, knuckles white against the table. His voice cracked as he tried again. "I'm not a villain. I'm the future. You can't make me small because you're old." Judy didn't blink. Age is arithmetic. So is fraud. Both can be counted. She turned to the clerk. "Mark the professor's testimony and exhibits." The clerk moved. The gallery held still. The boy's knee hammered the wood under the table, his last rhythm of defiance. Judy's voice dropped, cold and final. "You've called this business. The record calls it fraud. We are nearly done." The words drew the entire gallery tighter. Phones lifted, breaths shortened. The boy's face drained, his smirk gone, replaced by the look of someone realizing the end had already arrived. Judy reached for the gavel but didn't strike. She let the pause stretch, the silence deepen. The weight of what was coming filled every corner of the room. The storm outside pressed against the glass. Inside, everyone waited for the hammer to fall. The gavel hovered a breath above the wood. The room drew tight around that pause the way skin tightens around a wound. Stormlight pressed gray at the high windows. Inside, even the fluorescents seemed to dim in anticipation. Judy didn't rush. She set the gavel down with a single quiet tap that meant only one thing: listen. She squared the exhibits into a single spine: messages, bank confirmation, activity log, the professor's notes, the sign-in sheet, corners aligned with neat, unhurried taps. Each click sounded like a door closing somewhere you couldn't see. The boy stared at her hands as though memorizing the sequence might reverse it. On the record, Judy said, voice level, iron under glass. Findings and judgment. Air thinned. A phone vibrated in a purse and was smothered. The stenographer lifted her chin a fraction, the bailiff settled his weight, broad palms steepled behind his back. Rain whispered against the building. You received funds from the plaintiff at 10:12 a.m. Judy began, eyes on the paper, not the face. At 3:47 p.m., the same day, most of those funds were withdrawn. She nudged the top sheet an inch, exposing the memo line. Deposit per agreement. You had no valid agreement. Your messages discuss a fake contract, reworked totals, and calling edits a glitch. The signatures on your printouts replicate your own tremor. The activity log shows post-request edits under your login. A witness testified you boasted about being beyond scrutiny. She lifted her eyes. None of this is clever. It is blunt. The boy swallowed, the microphones caught the dry click. His fingers spread on the table, then clamped, the grip of a climber reaching for rock that isn't there. You call it business, Judy said. The record calls it fraud. A soft ripple ran the benches, no cheers, only the quiet adjustment people make when truth lands and refuses to move. A woman breathed, there it is, and stared at her hands. Judgment for the plaintiff, Judy continued. Return of principal. Interest. Plaintiff's costs. She turned the page, and the figure settled into the air. Total, $20,000. Numbers do what numbers do when finally spoken, they find a place to sit. The room received it, one clipped gasp, a single clap smothered midair, the teenagers suddenly still as if math had sprouted teeth. The boy's face drained toward white. He opened his mouth, fragments fell out, that's. If you intend to apologize, Judy said, say so. If you intend to blame everyone else, sit down. His pride reached for one last match. You're just, old, he managed, but the word had no voltage left. It fell between them like a dead battery. Age is arithmetic, Judy said. So are choices. Both are counted here. She leaned a fraction forward, not to loom, but to shorten the distance to honesty. Payment is due immediately. If you fail, enforcement follows. If you alter records again, I notify the proper authorities. Bravado will not improve your position. A low, unanimous rolled the gallery, agreement with gravity. The bailiff seemed nearer to the table without stepping. The boy's fingers lost and found the edge of the wood, a nervous tide. I can't pay right now, he tried. It's not fair. They set me up. Judy lifted a hand, no flourish, only conclusion. Fair is returning what you took and the cost of taking it, she said. Fair is not a feeling you have when consequences arrive on time. She looked down at the squared stack and slid it back an inch, as if clearing a plate. You asked for a show. This isn't one. The sentence spread through the room like dye in water. A couple of smiles flickered and died, this wasn't comedy. The boy's eyes shone suddenly, a thin glaze that made him look exactly his age. He reached to adjust his cap and stopped, remembering there was nothing to fix that way. Judy let the silence expand until it revealed who could stand inside it. Then she tilted closer, voice narrowing to the temperature of glass. You wanted a show, she said. It's over. And the only star here is your stupidity. No laughter. The words didn't ask for it. They went to the wood, the air, his posture, and stayed. He flinched without being touched. Bailiff, Judy said, tone sliding back to ordinary, the way a surgeon speaks after a cut is done. Provide the plaintiff with the judgment order. Clerk will finalize exhibits A through H, defendant is excused to arrange immediate payment. Yes, Your Honor. The boy's mouth worked soundlessly, the body's last attempt to produce defense where there was none. He scanned the gallery for a friendly face and found a wall of neutral acceptance. The room that had once fed him a trickle of attention gave him, finally, nothing. Judy lifted the gavel. Breath rose with it. Outside, rain softened to a hush, inside, light flattened on the bench, on phones, on faces. Court is adjourned. Crack. The strike rang clean and hard, ricocheting off oaken glass, sliding into pockets and memory. Applause began and died under the bailiff's raised hand. What remained was better than noise, the absorbent quiet after a sentence that doesn't need reply. Everything held for a beat. Then life resumed its smaller sounds, a zipper, a chair leg, the scrape of a shoe, a cough rebuked by peppermint. The plaintiff's shoulders lowered as if a decade had loosened its grip. The teenagers traded a look with the new knowledge that stories sometimes stop being stories and go back to being life with bills. The cameras caught the last frame, Judy's eyes steady, the gavel resting, the stack of exhibits squared, the boy's face cracked open by comprehension, pride emptied out, cleverness gone, an outline of what he had imagined himself to be. Screens froze there in 100 tiny rectangles before the red lights winked out. There was no theatrical blackout. Courtrooms don't dim, they conclude. But a heavier quiet settled, the kind that follows work finished correctly. Somewhere, the storm moved east. In the well of the room, the number, 20,000, sat like a weight that would take time to lift. Stand, the bailiff said, and the boy did, because the word carried rails. He gathered his phone with hands that missed the right angle twice, then found it. As he turned, his reflection slid across the black glass of the monitor, a cap, a young jaw, a man's penalty for a man's choice. He hesitated, as if waiting for someone to call cut. No one did. At the bench, Judy closed the folder. A small, final click, the sound of a door meeting its frame.